Edwin Sporty Mora would take to the street gang life like a duck takes to water. Representing the Moorpark Locos street gang out of Ventura County, Mora would quickly make a name for himself. He would rise through the ranks of his own gang and quickly would become a top enforcer for the infamous La M, better known as the Mexican Mafia. He would soon also become the right hand for a made Mexican Mafia member, a guy by the name of Martin Evil Madrigal, who's got a story in his own right. However, Edwin Sporty Mora would soon be wrapped up in an indictment when back in November in 2012, a 35-count indictment would come crashing down on Mora and many of his co-gang members' heads. He would soon be sentenced a few years later to 27 years in prison. He is currently serving his prison bid at Calipatria State Prison in California.
Tenacious investigation, it was determined that the Moorpark shootings, along with the heroin sales, took place at the direction of Edwin Sporty Mora, a high-ranking associate within the Mexican Mafia. Mr. Mora worked in the direction of another gentleman, Martin Evil Madrigal, a high-ranking Mexican Mafia member, and through his wife, Lena Fuentes, had set up a criminal enterprise to commit these crimes and funnel money back to both of the individuals, their wives, and for the long-term benefit of the Mexican Mafia, a large gang throughout the United States and prisons throughout California. The crimes were committed not only for their personal financial gain, but to maintain control in Ventura County of gang members through the use of fear and intimidation. Over a 3-month period, Mora directed, participated, and sanctioned a long list of crimes. Those included sales and transfers of firearms on behalf of the Mexican Mafia, La M, extortion, home invasion robberies, and as you all know, home invasion robberies, some of the most dangerous that we face because people go in, these gang members, these criminals go into people's homes while they're at home, take them over, threaten their lives, and it's a terrible, critical situation. This in-depth, dynamic investigation involved a variety of groups, including our District Attorney's Office. You'll hear from District Attorney Greg Totten here shortly about the indictments, the Ventura County Probation Department, our partners, the Oxnard Police Department and their Major Crimes Unit, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and the Federal Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms. Within the Sheriff's Organization itself, all of our units took place. Our narcotics investigators, our gang units, our major crime units, our special enforcement units. And the results of this long-term 3-month investigation are the indictments we bring before you today. During this investigation, investigators became aware of a variety of crimes, violent crimes, that were going to occur as a result of this criminal enterprise. And we had options. Do we let these crimes occur, or do we stop them to make sure we protect the people of our county? And we opted to stop those crimes. We became aware of an armed robbery that was going to take place at a pharmacy in an area of the county. And our gang unit was there and caught the suspects, masks in hand and guns in hand, before they commit the crime. We became aware of 2 shootings, hits, that were going to occur. And our investigators were there on scene to stop it from happening and take the guns away from the suspect. As you can see in front of you, we've seized 32 firearms during this 3-month investigation, $36,000 in cash, a quarter pound of heroin, and in addition to the indictments that District Attorney Totten will talk to you about, 16 more people were involved and will probably be arrested as part of this ongoing, still continuing investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, these are hardcore criminal gang members. They wake up every day and try to decide where they're going to commit crimes that day and victimize the people of this county. We will continue to work with our partners and remain vigilant because we can't become complacent because we live in such a safe area, because these gangs are active and involved everywhere. Justice is coming for the many criminals involved in this type of activity that would jeopardize the safety and lives of our families here in Ventura County.
In this county, have the perspective that the intelligence on this issue is a priority to protect the citizens. This is the first time we know that Emmy is a violent street gang, prison gang, and they control by force and intimidation. And if you get green lighted by them, that means you're going to get killed. And the green light's not coming off. That fear and intimidation brings rival gangs together. This is a priority because it's a new set of a violence potential in our community. And it stretches past them victimizing other criminals. Other victims in this case were non-criminal in nature. It wasn't all about taxing dope dealers.
Arrested a lot of the shot callers. What have you done to the gang's potential?
There'll probably be a void for a short period of time, and as we know, other managers or leaders within the organizations will fill in. There's too much money involved, and it's about following that money. We keep them on their toes. We use every technology possible to interdict their behavior, keep them guessing, keep them changing, and put them in jail. What I'm talking about is that's been a trend in California with the DTOs and the violence in Mexico. One of the spillover is them employing street gang for some of their work on the street. And the Mexican Mafia, the Sureños, are definitely, there's cases, there's intelligence that has been a threat.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Hope y'all having a blessed day. Really quick, before I jump into the video, if you do like it, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It does mean a lot. Okay, I got a good one for you guys today. Took some reading, took some research, but came across this individual, a guy by the name of Edwin Sporty Mora. Very, very interesting story, to say the least. Now, I did a video a while back on another guy by the name of Martin Evil Madrigal, a made Mexican Mafia member who was doing a lot of time in between U.S., Mexico, was really, when I say rubbing shoulders with the cartel, genuinely doing it. Did a lot of time at the federal level. He'd be deported. He would come back. And he was a made Mexican Mafia member since the early 2000s. Ends up getting killed just a couple years ago. Go check that video out for his story. But one of his lieutenants, one of his guys, it was one of his right-hand guys, was this individual, Edwin Sporty Mora, who was a member of the Moorpark Locos street gang. Now, interestingly, when I was reading through just some of the comments on some of these posts and just different things and Reddit, it just made it sound like Moorpark was the suburbs, that nothing's going on out there. But everything I'm seeing and the gang members that I'm seeing coming out of here, out of Ventura County, the 805, especially like this guy, like Edwin Sporty Mora. I know it said he's from Simi Valley, but he represents Moorpark, because I did see that too, that they're like, well, why is it saying he's from Simi Valley? He's got the MP on his chest. It's basically put in writing. It's known that he's a Moorpark Loco street gang. But regardless, seems to be with the business, man. Even though the picture I put up of Moorpark seems like a very nice area, definitely seems like it's an active city, to say the least. So Edwin Sporty Mora rises to the ranks of Moorpark, becomes an enforcer for the Mexican Mafia and one of the right hands of, like I said, Martin Evil Madrigal. And he's calling the shots. He's running things for the streets. He's basically controlling a lot of different gangs. He's collecting all the dues, all the drug money, setting up different, he's right in the middle of everything. Whatever's going on, Edwin Sporty Mora's got his hands on it. And he's reporting back to Martin Evil Madrigal, him and his wife, because Madrigal's in Mexico for a lot of this. And he's just doing his thing. And we read, I found, I'm going to read a little bit from his parole hearing that he did a few years back. He obviously filed for parole, and this was back in September 19. And the one thing I took away from this, including some of the details of the case he was wrapped up in that 2012 indictment, but it basically just said that this guy has been active from the beginning. This guy, and when I say the beginning, I mean from the time this guy could jump off the porch, he was with the business. That's kind of why I said that in the intro. But first, let's read from this article that talks about the actual indictment in November of 2012. And then we're going to go into some other side pieces of this case as well. And then we're going to read about his sentencing as well. Kind of had to piece it together, but start with the actual indictment back in November of 2012. And this is on November 27th, 2012, out of Ventura County. The 35-count felony indictments unsealed Tuesday named 25 adults and 2 juveniles accused of conspiring to commit a variety of felonies ranging from extortion to robbery, assault, and drug offenses over a 5-month period ending this month. 20 of the defendants were in custody and 6 were on the lam. Quote, these are hardcore criminal gang members. They wake up every day and try to decide where they're going to commit crimes that day and victimize the people of this county. Ventura County Sheriff Jeff Dean said, and you heard that in that press conference I put up for you guys. The operations were allegedly run from prisons by the leaders of the Mexican Mafia, or LIMA, one of the most vicious gangs in the country. According to Dean, one of the shot callers is Martin Evil Madrigal, who is already in prison for unspecified charges. Madrigal allegedly runs heroin sales from behind bars. The sheriff said one of Madrigal's lieutenants is Edwin Sporty Mora, who's also in prison, Dean said. Mora allegedly ordered 2 killings in Moorpark. However, this is kind of interesting. You don't hear about this a lot. Quote, we became aware of the 2 shootings, hits that were going to occur, and our investigators were there on scene to stop it from happening and take the guns away from the suspect. The officials said the investigators known as, quote, known as Operation Wicked Hands, started with the killings in Moorpark. Since the launch of the operation, 57 people have been arrested, Dean said. During the arrest, authorities seized heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine, as well as 32 weapons, including assault rifles. At its core, this case involved an organized crime conspiracy directed by the Mexican Mafia to extort and tax Ventura County drug dealers and gangs, said Gregory Totten, the Ventura County District Attorney. Dean said the operation will have short-term effect on crime in the county. And honestly, at least they're honest about it because it's true. It's like a vacuum, okay? So for a short time, things are going to be in a little disarray, but there's going to be somebody to step right into those roles. They're just waiting in the wings. They want to rise through the ranks just like Edwin Sporty Mora did at one point, just like all these other co-defendants did at one point. Everybody's trying to get to the top, right? There's another Martin Evil Madrigal, believe it or not, right? There's another leader in the making. There's another guy coming up through the ranks that's fearless, that's willing to do what it takes. And these police, they know that. The operation will have short-term effect. The Mexican Mafia will remain in positions of power. At least they admit it. I thought it was interestingly enough, though, Edwin Sporty Mora, he did get wrapped up in a federal case in 2013. Charges and conviction. And this was like a side note that I read. Mora was charged in federal court in 2013 for conspiracy to traffic methamphetamine in Ventura County. While his federal case was dismissed, county prosecutors successfully prosecuted him for conspiring to commit extortion and drug trafficking. And that's where that state-level indictment came into play. Now, I really just quickly, I want to read from a little bit of his parole. I just found it really interesting. Dear board members, this letter is written to recommend denial of early parole for inmate Edwin Mora. On June 6, 2018, the inmate was sentenced to 23 years, 4 months in prison. Releasing the inmate now means he will only have served 41% of his sentence. The inmate should be denied early release based upon, quote, the inmate's commitment offense, the inmate's prior criminal and gang history, quote, the unreasonable risk of violence and significant criminal activity if the inmate is released early. This case began in August of 2012 with a 3-month-long wiretap operation covering 17 phone lines by the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. The intercepted calls captured the inmate, a Moorpark Locos gang member, setting up a mesa, a ruling body of gang members throughout the county for the Mexican Mafia. The inmate personally selected gang members from the majority of the county's gangs to operate as his representatives. Gives you an idea of the power he had. They were placed in control of collecting taxes from drug dealers and the local gangs in their city. The mesa's purpose was to control the drug trade in the county, tax local drug dealers, and funnel money to federally made Mexican Mafia member Martin Evil Madrigal and his wife Lina Sonora Fuentes. This mesa, hold on, bear with me here, was authorized by Madrigal, who appointed the inmate as the key holder. And that inmate he appointed is Edwin Speedy, our guy, to Ventura County, allowing him to conduct business on Madrigal's behalf. So he's the key holder, man. He's the big dog. The inmate tasked the mesa with not only collecting the narcotics taxes from known drug dealers, but also to locate drug dealers who had not been paying taxes to the Mexican Mafia and to extort narcotics proceeds from the drug dealers for not paying the taxes. The inmate authorized, quote, green lights on local drug dealers who refused to pay their tax. At least 2 named drug dealers were targeted for not paying taxes. The wiretap revealed that the inmate collected taxes for the Mexican Mafia and sent it to Mexico to benefit Madrigal and Fuentes. He also would travel to Mexico in furtherance of this conspiracy. In addition to extorting and threatening the lives of drug dealers, the inmate was personally involved in the sales of drugs and attempted to rob a pharmacy with the conspirator. During the inmate's arrest, 2 letters from Madrigal and addressed to the inmate were found on him. That's crazy, man. So he's really in lockstep with Martin Evil Madrigal. These letters granted permission to the inmate to operate the mesa on behalf of Madrigal for LIMA. It's nuts, man, the letters. The inmate has a significant violent criminal history, riddled with gang violence, theft, and robbery. His lifelong criminal career began at the age of 14. Remember, like I said in the intro, for committing a battery and vandalism. At 16, he committed a robbery, burglary, and stole a vehicle when he and an adult co-conspirator struck the victim with their fists and knocked him to the ground, while they both kicked the victim in the head approximately 40 times. At age 17, the inmate was charged with resisting arrest, loitering, and disorderly conduct. Been with the business, man. Okay, now he gets sentenced for that 2012 indictment in May of 2015. We're going to read from that. A Moorpark Locos gang member known to law enforcement as a top enforcer for La M.A. in Ventura County, who sentenced to 27 years on May 14th, 2015. Edwin Mora, who was 31 at the time, now he's 41, of Simi Valley, pled guilty in April in Ventura County Superior Court to numerous felony charges, including conspiracy to commit a crime, attempted extortion, and attempted second-degree robbery. Special allegations of street terrorism and a third strike under California's three strikes law were considered in the sentence. Mora was a member of the Moorpark Locos street gang. The sentencing was an outcome of Operation Wicked Hand. This was the largest indictment that has ever happened in our county and was a result of a major effort by the Sheriff's Department, Roth said. The 3-month wiretap, which began in August 2012, followed Mora and numerous co-conspirators associated with the Mexican Mafia. Detectives used those wiretaps. We talked about the 16, 17-hour wiretaps. They often worked 20-hour days to uncover details of the criminal operation. Tasked with setting up a mesa. The Mexican Mafia demanded $500 a week or a tax from local drug dealers. In the wiretaps, detectives recorded Mora detailing how he squeezed money from dealers and beat those who refused to pay. The gang leader was also expected to kill on orders from cartel leaders who were in prison. The other 26 defendants were accused of robbery, conspired to commit assault, extortion, home invasion, and drug trafficking. And also tipped the police to the crimes. The shootings he had set up and that pharmacy robbery was crazy. And then another wiretap, they actually picked up Mora. He was recorded saying to gang members they needed to collect $50,000 to bribe a judge in Mexico. Remember, that's where Martin Evil Madrigal's at. Gang members wanted to secure money to release the Mexican Mafia leader Martin Evil Madrigal, who remains in prison. Police recovered letters written from Madrigal to Mora after the medicine store arrest. That's when he was trying to rob the pharmacy. With the arrest of Mora, Roth said the sheriff's office was able to prevent those killings. Madrigal, a Oxnard native and member of the Colonia Chicas gang, and his wife Lina Fuentes were also indicted on extortion and conspiracy to commit murder. Madrigal's got a good story in his own right, guys. Go check out my video. He was controlling all the gangs in Ventura County from Mexico after numerous deportations and federal convictions included, and he was inducted in the early 2000s to La M.A. And basically, he was a guy that they said from the time he got made was very cocky, would walk around with basically an attitude and was a dick to a lot of people. And they kind of said that was his undoing. Go check out my video again. I don't want to give too much away, but there were a lot of also very powerful Mexican Mafia individuals that did not like him. Like I said, he would constantly get deported, would come back, ended up in Mexico, said rubbing shoulders with cartels. And he's kind of in this weird spot because he's not in, a U.S. prison where he should be. He's on the FBI's, he's on their radar. He's wanted. He's not in a state prison. He's in Mexico, which maybe it isn't always the greatest place to be, but at least you're free. And regardless, he ends up getting killed in 2023. Like I said, it's a story for its own right. And our guy, Edwin Sporty Mora, was his right hand. It said that they caught him on wiretap, basically talking to Madrigal's wife, saying how he had pressed this local drug dealer who was basically, and this is what is crazy. I'm going to end it with this. In this wiretap, he's talking to this drug dealer. The drug dealer says, hey, man, I'm only making $35,000 to $4,000 a month. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money. Okay, $3,500 to $4,000 is a lot a month. But out of that, he's got to give these guys, he's got to give Mora, which kicking back to Madrigal, 500 of that. And he's talking about, man, I got bills. This is a lot of money. And Mora says, you're right. It is a lot of money. But if you don't give me that, I could shut your whole operation down and then you get nothing. But my point to all this is you are a drug dealer on the street, moving drugs, talking, and you're risking your life every single day, dealing with people like Edwin Sporty Mora for a regular job wages. That is the part to me that just blows my mind. I'm like, and I get it. Some people that don't know anything different, that's how they make their money. And that's not a bad living. You can support a family off that. But that's nothing. You can go make that at an hourly job. It just blew my mind. I'm going to end it with that. I really hope you guys enjoyed the story. Until next time, peace.